Hey, if you have an adult child who is struggling, who is stuck, this is a video that I want you to listen to. Hi, I'm Jonathan League. I am a family therapist. I'm an addictions counselor, and I host this group, this Unstuck journey, where we really hone in on families who have children, particularly older children, who are struggling, and that is what we do. We're here to talk. We're here to help. We're here to support. And tonight I want to talk about a dynamic that happens quite often. And I want some parents to hear this. I want some parents to understand what's going on. And I really want to focus on when your adult child is pulling away, right? They're avoiding, they're isolating, they're pulling away from you. And there can be many reasons why that happens. But there's one particular type of reason that I want you to pay attention to, because this kind of pulling away is actually a good part of the process. And a lot of parents don't see it. They see it as failure. They get afraid. They back off on what is an amazing opportunity because they don't understand what's happening when their adult child is pulling away. I was talking with a family earlier this week, and their son, he's not communicating. He left the home. He's staying somewhere. And the thing about why this is happening is because the parents have made a shift in the way they're responding to him. Right? Before it was either they were avoiding the situation or they were arguing about the situation. But in this case, what they have been doing for several weeks is they have been focusing on being clear and being kind, right? They have stayed engaged and they've stopped being controlling. Their son has been telling them, "You've got to back out of my life. You've got to let me make my decisions. You're running my life. You're doing everything, and I want to be my own person. You need to back off." And that's actually what they did, right? They've backed off. They said, "These are your choices. These are yours decisions. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about how you're doing with your job. Let's talk about the money that you're making. Let's talk about your plan. Let's talk about your plan to move out and to be independent. How's that going? What's going on?" And they stayed engaged, but they're not calling the shots anymore. They stopped telling him what to do. They left that up to him, but they also stayed engaged. And what this did is something that happens with so many young adults in this phase, right? Is it puts the focus back on the child. It puts the focus back on the young adult. Because until that point, he was constantly able to say, "You guys are being too controlling. You're telling me what to do. You're not giving me any room here." And he made it all about them. And they would have these big arguments, these big blow-ups. And he would be able to point to how angry his parents were, how unreasonable his parents were, because they would get pulled into that over and over. But once they learned that they didn't have to control, that they could actually step back but not go away. Right? And that, I know that's a hard concept, a hard thing to get into balance, but that's what these parents had. And so what is happening with them right now is that their son became overwhelmed. The parents are no longer controlling. The parents are no longer telling him what to do, right? But they're staying engaged. And every conversation became more and more clear that their son was struggling. It was his struggle. He was the one having a hard time getting motivated. He was the one having a hard time following through. He was the one who was doubting himself, right? And they stayed in this loving, encouraging place, and he was becoming overwhelmed. He was coming face to face with his own insecurities, with his own issues. The parents didn't kick him out, right? He couldn't take it anymore. He couldn't take the pressure, and he's withdrawing. Right? And that is such a scary place for these parents. It's such a scary place for a lot of parents. Right? But I call this the middle ground. Right? And it is a tough spot. It is tough to see your kids struggle. But in that struggle, in that crisis, there is a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity to be loving, to be caring, to help your child, right? Because it's no longer an argument between the two of you. Your child is feeling the full weight of whatever is holding them back. And in that moment, in that middle ground, here's what happens, right? They either start to grow, right? They're able to see the changes they need to make. They feel supported, they feel loved, and they start taking the steps. They start taking the baby steps and moving forward, and they start growing, and things turn around. Or they become overwhelmed and they avoid. That's really what it is. Right? They withdraw back into their video games, into their online behavior, maybe their substance use. They go hang out with their friends all the time and stay out of the home, and they don't want to deal with what's going on, or maybe they just completely implode inside, or in this situation they disappeared for a while. Right? This kid's going to come back, right? The parents are going to see him again, and they're going to be able to have an opportunity to wrap their arms around him and to be loving and to be kind and caring and say, we're here for you. Let's keep on this journey, right? So it's either they're growing in this middle ground or they avoid. Right? They don't know how to face what is going on inside of them. And that is where this family is. And many of you are going to be in that place. And I want to I want to make it clear what that is. Because a lot of parents, what I see them do is they panic or they just get too worried and concerned about the struggle, and a lot of times they rescue or they avoid, and they kind of go back to the way it was before. But you're not failing in that moment. It's kind of this inevitable thing that is going to happen when you find the right balance of how you respond to your kid. They are often going to go into their own internal crisis, but that's the opportunity to help. Okay. So that middle ground, the way I like to describe it, is you're engaged, but you're not controlling, right? You're present, but you're not rescuing, right? And that's a lot of, those of you who've listened to a lot of the talks I've been talking about, that's a balance we talk about, right? Controlling versus rescuing or avoiding. Right? And I want you to stay away from the extremes. That's a big part of this message that sets us up. Most parents and children, when they're struggling, they go to one of two extremes, right? They either avoid, right? We're not going to talk to them. We're not going to deal with this. We just can't handle it anymore. Let's just avoid it and hope it gets better, right? But then it persists, right? It's a form of enabling. Or they go to the other extreme. Every time they try to bring it up, it's an argument, right? And that argument, it doesn't help, right? And then the kind of the third pivot point, which is a kind of a form of avoidance, is the rescuing. Let's step in and rescue them from their struggle, which is avoiding the real issue that's going on. We want to stay away from those extremes. We want to stay in that middle where you're not being controlling, but you're being very engaged, right? You're not rescuing, but you're staying present. What does that look like? It's real talks about what's going on, right? You're acknowledging that your adult child can make their own decisions, right? You've got to give them that. This is their life. There's their decisions, but you talk about what kind of decisions are you making? How is it going? And also, yes, there's that place for boundaries. There's those times where you say, hey, we're not going to pay for this starting at the end of the month, right? How are you doing at finding a way to pay for it yourself? How's it going with that job? How's things really happening, right? You get to choose what you do. We're just saying what we're going to do or what we're not going to do, right? And that's what often leads to that crisis moment, which is another opportunity to help them with that moment. So for those of you who are setting those boundaries, for those of you who are learning to Step back, but stay present. I see your struggle. I know this is difficult. I see it many times with families. I help them work with this, but don't give up. Right? This is an important moment. Stay away from those extremes. Right? Stay engaged. Keep talking, but don't give up. And for those of you who haven't already, pinned at the top of this group and also on the Facebook page, which is currently the Living with Addiction page, is pinned a video. It's a teaching. It's 10 minutes, and I describe how to have these conversations, with your adult child that lead to you being unstuck. It's about how to connect with them, how to acknowledge the internal struggle, how to help them with that, how to make plans and step forward. It's a really good video, and I would love for you to watch it. If you want more direction, that's where you need to go. So that's it. That's what I was going to talk about tonight.